Coming up tonight on YCN News, former U.S. Senator from Massachusetts Scott Brown, who is running for the U.S. Senate position now held by Senator Jeanne Shaheen, stops by New London. YCN hosts a debate with candidates running for Sullivan County Sheriff. And members of the New Hampshire congressional delegation, Governor Maggie Hassan, and political candidates send support to the family of recently murdered journalist James Foley. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening, and welcome to this Wednesday edition of YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Former U.S. Senator from Massachusetts Republican Scott Brown, now a resident of Rye, New Hampshire, is running for the U.S. Senate, aiming to unseat U.S. Senator and former New Hampshire Governor Jeanne Shaheen. First, Brown must win the Republican primary set for September 9th. Brown must be the top vote-getter on the GOP slate, besting former state Senator Jim Rubens and former U.S. Senator from New Hampshire Bob Smith. YCN's Laura James interviewed Brown at Whipple Memorial Town Hall in New London.
Well, I'm joined today by Senator Brown. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Boy, quite a turnout tonight.
Really, truly amazing. It must have been a good 150, 200 people. It was really overwhelming.
It was Whipple Town Hall, New London, New Hampshire, and you had some questions tonight. Tell us what the most important message was for you to get out.
Well, that people have a chance to make a difference, and the federal government doesn't have all the answers. And if you want to make a difference, you actually have to have an opportunity to take back the Senate, make Harry Reid the minority leader. Get all those bills on the president's on Harry's desk and put them on the president's desk, and really make an effort to reestablish our New Hampshire advantage, and also to take back our country and kind of right the ship, that check and balance. Because right now we have a senator who's voting with the president 199 point whatever percent of the time, and that independent leadership is not there.
Senator, how's the response been as you've delivered your message?
I mean, signs are flying out the door and people are fired up, and it's been wonderful. I've really, truly enjoyed it. My wife and I are blessed to have the honor to try to seek, a term down there to, help Kelly and really focus on the things that matter.
Now, what do you say to the naysayers in the Republican Party and the party faithful?
I say that once the primary is over, if we unite, which I believe we can, and we have a fiduciary responsibility and an obligation to our founding fathers and to our country, when we unite, it's Senator Shaheen's worst nightmare.
Senator, I know you're busy tonight. What's your one message that you'd like to deliver as you leave?
Well, everyone have a great rest of the summer. Enjoy your kids before they go back to high school or college, and God bless. Thanks.
Senator Brown, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm Laura James, back to the studio.
Thank you, Laura. On September 9th, Sullivan County residents registered to vote in the New Hampshire primary will be able to cast ballots for several contested races. One of those contested races is the sheriff's race. For the first time in 20 years, the position of High Sheriff will be vacant. Current Sheriff Mike Prozo is retiring. YCN News hosted a debate Monday night, a debate that you can see aired in its entirety tomorrow night at 8 and 11 p.m. on channels 20 and 712. There are no Democratic challengers, yet there are 3 men, all Republicans, who want to be Sullivan County's next sheriff. They are Sunapee Police Chief David K. Hill and current Sheriff's Department employees Lieutenant Dennis O'Sullivan and Captain John Simons. Each man has extensive law enforcement experience. The first question to the 3 men: if elected sheriff, what would be your top 3 priorities? The debate continued for an hour, allowing for questions from YCN's Lisa Connell, WNTK's Gail Hedrington, and the audience that filled the Library Arts Center in Newport. YCN's John O'Connor, host of Capital Connections, moderated the debate. Please be sure to tune in tomorrow night at 8 and 11 p.m. to watch the debate in its entirety. When YCN News returns, we'll continue with more news.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Our next story is a tough one to hear. It concerns the fate of a New Hampshire journalist. Members of the New Hampshire congressional delegation, Governor Maggie Hassan, and political candidates are sending support to the family of James Foley. The beheading of Foley by ISIS extremists are appalling actions and a crime against humanity, says Hassan in a statement today. Hassan says she joins all Granite Staters and people around the world in mourning the tragic loss of James Foley. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family and loved ones. Candidate for U.S. Senate Republican Jim Rubens says as a parent, he and his wife Susan cannot begin to fathom the pain that Foley's parents are experiencing. U.S. Senator Republican Kelly Ayotte joins her colleagues in support of the Foley family. James was an innocent civilian who was bravely performing his job as a journalist, Ayotte says. This barbaric and heinous act shocks the conscience and highlights the truly evil nature of the terrorists we confront, who must be defeated. It is believed that Foley was killed because he is an American and killed in retaliation for the recent U.S. airstrikes in Iraq. Another American journalist is being held captive. It remains to be seen if more U.S. troops are sent into the area. In local news, a private investigator has been hired by Claremont city officials to determine how personal items removed from a home taken by the city for back taxes was proper. The contract for the investigation is for $10,000. It is being awarded to Jordan Ullery of Ulrich Litigation Support. Ullery will report directly to Mayor James Nielsen, the E-Ticker News of Claremont reports. The home at 54 Windsor Road, formerly owned by Roy Hunter, is the subject of concern. Claremont Police Chief Alex Scott earlier told the City Council that he believes items inventoried by City Finance Director Mary Walter, City Treasurer Lisa Richmond, and a Claremont Police Captain for safekeeping on behalf of Hunter was proper. Eviction notices at the house were posted earlier for unsafe living conditions. City Manager Guy Santagate and City Solicitor Jane Taylor reviewed the removal of items done to keep them safe, not for personal use, and agreed that Hunter's items should be returned to the house. Now, the Ullery will determine if any laws were violated, including any civil rights of Hunter. Motorists and cyclists headed to downtown Hanover this Saturday may want to plan another way to get there. Hanover town officials report that beginning at 7 a.m., East Wheelock Street will be paved. Wheelock Street runs along the front of Hanover Inn and the Hopkins Center, along the Dartmouth College Green. Major delays should be expected during paving. Town officials ask that you seek an alternate route. Turning to Vermont news, where and how to build a new facility for Brattleboro's police and fire departments remains a question for town officials. Will one building where both departments can work from be a viable option? And should this location be on Elliott Street? In a report today by the Brattleboro Reformer, interim town manager Patrick Moreland says a committee will continue to look for the best option. At town meeting, voters rejected a proposed $14.1 million public safety facility for fear it would raise taxes too greatly. Now, it also seems that the Elliott Street site may not be the best spot for a much-needed new building. Meanwhile, the project manager and architect continue to be paid for their work even though no new spot has been found. The bill so far, about $900,000. The search for the right location will continue. Town meeting representatives will have the final say about what site is picked. When YCN News returns, we'll join Kearsarge Chronicles' Lynn Solomon, who met with Lori DeWink, co-owner of Gray's Restaurant.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Now Matt McDonald will have a look at our weather for the next few days and then move on to sports.
Thanks, Rose. Tonight we'll have patchy fog after 2 a.m. Skies will be partly cloudy with lows in the 50s and winds around 5 miles per hour. Tomorrow morning will be foggy until 9 a.m. Skies will be mostly cloudy with highs in the mid-70s and calm winds. Tomorrow night we have a 30% chance of rain between 8 p.m. and midnight. Skies will be mostly cloudy with a low of 57 degrees. Friday will have a high of 74 degrees with calm winds around 5 miles per hour. Friday night will have mostly cloudy skies with lows in the 50s. You can see here that storms may reach us sometime this week. There's a 30% chance of this. Otherwise, skies will be cloudy. And now let's see what's coming up on our community calendar. Tomorrow in Woodstock, Vermont, the Watch Out for the Dinosaurs concert will take place in the Village Green at noon. In Quechee, Vermont, there will be a concert that will begin at 6:30 p.m. on the Village Green. In New Hampshire, the Newberry Consort of Chicago will perform at the First Baptist Church in New London at 7:30 p.m. Remember, you can submit local events from your community by sending them to news@ycnnow.com. And now let's take a look at New Hampshire Fisher Cats news. The Fisher Cats won a great game last night. The final score of last night's game against Trenton was 2-1. In the top of the third inning, Dalton Pompey homers, sending him on a run home as well as sending Kevin Nolan home. The result of this play left the Fisher Cats with the victory. This was the first game in a 3-game series with Trenton. YCN News will update you on the outcome of this series in the week ahead.
Thanks, Matt. When YCN News continues, we'll join Capital Connections' John O'Connor, who met with Vermont Senator and former U.S. Ambassador Peter Galbraith.